Welcome to the Healing Project podcast. You, me, and we, where personal growth meets relational intelligence.
In this space, we are committed to having conversations about loving others well without losing yourself. I'm Jefferson.
And I'm Rosa.
And we are the Joneses.
Spiritual leaders, entrepreneurs, and emotional health advocates. Hello.
Hey, what's up, y'all?
How y'all doing? Listen, welcome back. Today is all about episode 20, Renegotiating Relationship After Change. This is part 2.
Part 2.
On deck. The last conversation was awesome. Part 1, we just had a fantastic conversation about, when things happen, how to renegotiate things in our relationship. And today we are going to continue the conversation and really talk a little bit about relationships and how they often operate on unspoken contracts. Come on. Contracts that we have never talked about, that we have never signed on the dotted line. The truth is that in our relationships, sometimes that is a thing. We're operating off of things that are unspoken. And so today we're going to talk about identifying and rewriting those patterns if that's something that you need to do in your relationship. And so as we get going, here's our anchoring thought today. The thought that I would love to share to help ground us in this conversation. And it's this: many relationships run on agreements no one remembers making. Paint the picture for us.
Okay.
Help them see what we're talking about. Come on.
All right, here we go. So I need y'all to imagine renovating a house while still living in it.
Oh.
But, everybody say but.
But.
No one agrees on the blueprint.
Yikes.
One person's knocking down walls. The other person is trying to preserve the original structure. Both think they're improving the house, but without a shared plan, it feels chaotic. It feels unsafe. So change is renovation. A new baby.
Yeah.
A move, a new church, a shift in faith, therapy and personal growth, trauma, grief, loss of a loved one, financial stress. And, here's the thing, is that one person may be evolving internally. And we've talked about internal change. Well, the other may feel like the foundation is being altered.
Wow. When
you're renovating. So without renegotiation, growth feels like betrayal.
Yikes. Oh, say that again.
Without renegotiation, growth feels like betrayal. And so as we're going through this, there has to be conversation.
Absolutely.
Because growth without conversation, it's going to feel like instability. Yeah. So I want to give a scripture just to tie this in, make you think about this with a biblical lens too. Proverbs 24, 3-4 says this: by wisdom, a house is built, and through understanding, it is established. Through knowledge, its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures.
Amen.
So a house, we don't build one accidentally. Right? It requires wisdom. It requires vision, understanding, empathy, and knowledge, where we have that clarity and that communication that's needed. So renovation without shared understanding creates this instability. Right? So we're talking about renegotiating. When you renegotiate, guess what? That has to be understanding. But when wisdom and understanding guide the process, the house becomes stronger and more beautiful.
That's good.
Right? So as we're getting into this, are you fighting your companion or fighting a version of them they never agreed to be forever?
Yikes. Come on. And that's why being emotionally and mentally flexible is not just good for you, it's good for all your relationships. Because when I heard you say that, the truth is, if you're living right, nobody stays the same way forever. So nobody should expect themselves to stay the same. And guess what? We shouldn't expect people to stay the same either.
Right. So that's why I want you all to keep that vision of a house kind of floating around
That's good.
in your head, because a house requires, if you want it to be healthy, it requires renovation. It
Come on now.
requires change, and it has to be a blueprint. But both the couple that lives in that house, they got to know the blueprints together.
Right. And you made me think about something. I wonder, I know this is true for me. Do any of you all know anybody, you have anybody in your life who's maybe a family member or a really close family friend that maybe when you were growing up, you went to their house? I can think of like couples like that in my own family and close family friends, and it was beautiful. It was warm. It was welcoming. And then as you move from childhood to adolescence and then maybe adulthood and then now later adulthood, and you go to the same house and you take a look, and it's not just the furniture, right, that maybe hasn't changed or hasn't been renovated, or the style of the house, but even some of the appliances, even certain things related to, maybe like sinks and flooring and all of that. Sometimes when you go into people's houses who you remember the home being beautiful and warm and inviting, if they don't renovate, if they don't keep it up, over time, it becomes outdated. It becomes stale. It is not a very practical place anymore, sometimes, to live or to have a sense of refreshment and enjoyment. Does that come to mind for you? I can think of places like that. And so I love that picture that you painted for us, because I think it's a really great analogy and way to think as we consider our relationships and this importance of like renovation and renegotiation.
Because I could go into like a part now, still talking about a physical house.
Yeah.
And it's 15 years later. And I remember, hypothetical,
Right.
Rosa, well, knows you like sunrooms. Like Rosa always wanted a sunroom built onto the house.
Yeah.
I go spend, I don't know, 15, 20 grand. She's out at work. She has her own new office. She goes out. She comes home in the evening. I get a crew come in. They build this sunroom. And I mean, it's top of the line, everything, even a remote screen that can drop down to make it dark or rise up. She comes in and she's like, babe, she's shocked, but she's also frustrated because it's 15 years later and it's not what she wanted anymore.
Yeah, I don't need
but
that.
I'm living off in an assumption of who she used to be.
Come on.
And she's not the same person now.
So good.
I want to spend a few moments talking about unspoken contracts.
Let's talk about it.
An unspoken contract is a silent expectation we assume the other person has agreed to without ever clearly discussing them. This could be communication patterns, how a person communicates. This could be emotional labor. Dealing with decision making. Who's going to make certain decisions? Who's going to lead the way on those decisions being made? And I'm thinking about how assumptions can create tension in a relationship. And when there are silent expectations, this can then birth quiet offense. I have expectations of things like, for example, with this sunroom, right. She's changed and she has a different thought about what she wants, but she never said anything else about it. Right. And now she may have some offense because I didn't spend all this money building something she didn't want anymore. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point, right? And that's the sort of thing, and we're talking about something major, but even like seemingly small or micro ways that can show up in our relationships, where we're not having the types of conversations that we need to have. We're not knowing, because of that, then it causes us to not necessarily know and be connected to who the person is or who they're becoming, as opposed to who it is that they've been. And that's why these conversations are critical. And we've got to figure out ways of communicating in our relationships that keep us connected and refreshed.
That's good.
And renewed over time.
Right. Because what happens is these assumptions, they keep relationships stuck.
Absolutely.
And however, conversation creates movement. Conversation creates flow. Conversation creates a healthy body. I like that, but I like that conversation creates movement because I begin to think about the body
Yeah.
and how the body needs good circulation, a healthy body. And just as healthy circulation in the body is good for your health,
Yeah.
healthy conversation creates healthy circulation in your
Oh, that's
relationship,
good.
right?
That's
So I want
good.
to add a question to throw out there. What helps us, or what has helped us move from assumption? What has helped us move from assumption to conversation? If you can think of something.
You probably need to back that up to the first question you were going to ask
Oh, ask the
first,
first.
because
Okay,
they
they
build
tie
on each
together.
other.
Okay, here we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Have we ever assumed something about each other that we never actually agreed on?
Have I ever assumed something about, yeah, that we never actually agreed on? Man. I think what comes up for me in terms of like assumptions is, just maybe assuming that, a big assumption for me when I think about you was when we met, when we reconnected, before we started dating the second time. um, I remember we went on a date. It was the first date that we had. And one of the things that we talked about at the time is just kind of like where we were and what we wanted out of life. Right. And it was a really casual conversation because we weren't like dating, we were just spending time together. And you were in your freshman year of college. I was my sophomore year. And I was just like, so tell me a little bit about what you're interested in on campus. And so you were telling me about clubs and organizations and all that kind of stuff, and organizations you wanted to join and all that. And then you went on to share. I was asking you, I knew you were majoring in biology, but what were your plans? What were you planning to do with that? And you told me you wanted to be a doctor, a pediatrician to be specific. And so I was like, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're a very kind, gentle person, you're very caring, and you're exceptionally intelligent. And so that was something that was like, oh, he wants to be a doctor. Right. And I think for me, because I knew early on that that was our dream that you had, that was always something that I held on to as kind of like the ultimate dream or goal that you had for yourself.
Ooh.
Right. And I did check in with you about it, down the road when you hadn't kind of embarked on that journey. Um, and we kind of went through a process, right, of like exploring that, and you doing some things to kind of really consider that as a path and a transition for a while. But I definitely thought that like that was my assumption that that is what you would end up doing, because that's what you expressed that you really wanted to do, and that was your strong desire. So I think that was one of the things that it was definitely an adjustment.
What helped us move from, here it is, assumption to conversation?
I think just like learning more from you about like the experiences that you were having as an educator, the experiences that you were having in ministry, and the types of fulfillment that you got from those things that were really sufficient for you and enough for you.
Yeah.
And I think that was the thing that really helped me to shift. But let's be honest, it was also difficult for me to shift my assumptions, because back then your conversation and your communication wasn't to the point where it was dynamic enough for you to even really express where you were. So it was like I was a person with a shovel who was kind of like digging, trying to get in there. You didn't really it wasn't like on the tip of your tongue. You didn't have a lot of like words to express where you were. So, but when you got to the point where you were able to do that, then it was helpful. Yeah, very helpful. Yeah. What about you? Tables turn. Have you ever assumed something like about me or you or whatever that we never actually agreed upon? I don't know. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't.
What do y'all think? Of
course, y'all don't know our relationship
I
like that.
I mean, we think we already hit on it. Like last episode.
Okay.
We were talking about like the cooking and
yes.
some of the,
that's true. That was a really good one.
Yeah, some of those things. I think being the assumption that you would easily. Oh, here's a good one.
Okay.
The assumption that you would easily love me the way I receive love, and it would not be challenging for you to adjust to.
Ah, okay. That's a good one.
Physical touch and gifts.
Yeah, that's true. And those are like my
those
lowest.
Are your bottom.
They're bottom of the barrel for me.
Y'all pray for me. But I give her kudos. Y'all, she brought me some wings. the other day, and she was nicely rewarded for that.
So
For
I was.
that, for that gift.
I had to pour into the tank,
She
y'all.
poured into the tank, and I
Yes.
gave her premium.
Listen.
That's an inside.
All
High five on
right.
that.
High
Don't leave me.
five. Oh my God. Grown folk stuff. No
Inside joke.
shame. Come on. My
Oh my
goodness.
goodness.
So help us to move into this conversation a little deeper about rewriting roles with clarity and compassion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rewriting these roles with clarity and compassion, it is really, I think at the core of this, I think that first I want to say there has to be a lot of humility, right? Because you're coming in, and depending on where you are in your relationship, talking to you all, my audience, my listeners, it might be 2 years in the game, 3 years, maybe not married, just seriously dating, or you might be 15 years in. I think depending on, I think the age of the person and the depth of the relationship um, can really play a role in the ease. But also, it's up to the person too, like, and how they're wired. But I said humility because you really got to, like, you can't come into this thing guns blazing like this is about me.
Yeah.
You got to get out the way. And so you got to, and I think it takes that humility to let go of old roles without blaming the past.
Yeah.
And self-kindness, grace, self-love. Yeah, and it has to be a lot of compassion for the earlier seasons of the relationship. But in order to have compassion for the earlier version of the relationship, it comes back to the compassion you have for the old version of you. Because if I can't have compassion for the old version of me, how am I going to have compassion for the old version of you?
So true.
Right? And in this process, you know, this growth strengthens the respect when handled with that care.
Absolutely.
Right? And that gentleness. So I'm gonna give you this line, you all. I want you all to think about this and hold on to this. You don't have to resent the past to outgrow it. Right? You don't have to resent the past to outgrow it. You don't have to feel a certain type of way towards the past to grow out of that and move out of that, because there's something greater ahead of us.
That's so good.
And just because it's different doesn't mean that it won't be better.
That's true.
Right? Just because it's not, just because it doesn't feel like what was familiar then, doesn't mean that there isn't something better.
I've got another one.
Come
Just
on.
because the past wasn't wrong, it doesn't make it right.
Whoop.
Come on. And I think that's important because sometimes what we're looking for is something to be wrong, an error, or someone to blame. But those are not high level motivating factors for people who are growth oriented. It's enough for something not to be efficient enough, effective enough, deep enough, right? Courageous enough.
Yeah, that's good. Question. What role have you or I outgrown in our relationship?
That's a great question. I think for me, one of the roles that I've outgrown in our relationship is like being the connector, you know?
Oh, so that means that I'm doing better.
I don't know if you are or not, but I can just speak for myself.
You know what?
And what I don't do. And when I say that, because, so here's the thing. I think one of the roles that I do play within our relationship is the person who does a lot of planning socially in terms of like taking the lead on like vacations and family time and this, that, and the other. But what I mean by that is I used to, in the earlier years, do a lot more of that in regards to like trying to help you to maintain a certain level of connection with your family of origin. And that is something that I stopped.
Yeah.
And a role that I stopped. And it's for a number of reasons. I still think that connecting with your family of origin is important. But as I've grown and I've matured, what I've learned is that when it comes to a person's own family, like families are different. And just because we're married, it doesn't mean that everything just works. It actually, things don't work the same. in
No.
regards to my family, extended family versus his, because our families are different and our family cultures are different. So I think in the earlier years, I just had a lot of expectations about what connection and communication should look like in family, period, that was based on my experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I would infuse some of that into like you and your family and try to like make sure that certain things were happening, certain levels of communication, certain levels of connection. And and I've grown and I've matured to the point where I realize that our families are different and that it's okay. And when it comes to communication and connection in regards to the people that you are born from, it's your responsibility. Right. And so if it's something that you desire, it's something that you'll cultivate. And so that's something that I stopped doing. I stopped taking responsibility for that. And, a part of that was about me like managing my own expectations, not making assumptions about your family, and just allowing things to be what they'll be. Right. It's just kind of like releasing control. So
That's good.
that, I think that's been a big one for me. What about for you? What role have you outgrown in this relationship, or even another role you feel like I've outgrown?
I think for me, I feel like personally I've outgrown. I'm trying to think how to say it. What? Laughing at me. I think I've outgrown, or I think I've outgrown and still working on showing more initiative in the things that I get done.
Okay. Yeah. Outgrowing being underproductive.
Yeah, outgrowing being underproductive.
Yeah, I would agree. I can see that. So. Yeah. Why has that been important to you? Or how did you end up outgrowing that?
It's important to me because I think it helps in our relationship.
Yeah.
It relieves you of weight and obligations or things that need to get done. I think it also models for our sons.
Yes.
It impacts their growth and development. I think it's been beneficial and helpful, and it is important for the things that I'm called to do.
Yes.
And the things that I need to accomplish within myself. So
that's good. And you know what? I was sitting here as you were talking, I realized what the role is. So maybe the reframe is you've outgrown the role of being a receiver, because productivity and getting things done, people who do that are givers. And they're producers.
That makes sense.
Right? So if you felt like there was a season of being underproductive or unproductive in some ways, the role was of the receiver. So growing out of just simply being a receiver, but also being a giver. Right? Which is really important. And I know there'll be a day and a time where we talk more about that on this podcast.
Yeah, but this real quick, now you got me going. God knows how to put you in new situations.
Yes, he does.
And relationships to bring you to a place of discomfort that requires the transformation and the change.
Yeah. But you still have to say yes.
But you got to say yes.
Yeah, because some people still, they get put in these situations, they get the opportunities, but they don't respond to the call, right?
And I think these things are good. And, understanding how that all these things are like kind of like building blocks to being able to move forward.
Absolutely.
Together.
Right. And renegotiating the relationship after change together. Right. Absolutely. But I mean, a big part of it is humility and transparency and vulnerability for you, even to be able to sit here and say that, because that's you disclosing a weakness, something that you struggled with. Right. First, we have to be able to admit that to ourselves, and then sometimes share that with others.
Yeah, still growing.
Absolutely.
Not like over it. Like
no, right? And we're all still growing, so it's okay. Right. All right, so let's talk a little bit about moving forward together. So clarity and communication, if you haven't figured it out already, that is what rebuilds the connection. So you've got to be clear for yourself and then also be able to communicate that with the other person, whether it's a friend, a partner, or a family member. so that the connection can be rebuilt, right? Because if we're not talking about what's going on, what's happening, how we're feeling, how maybe needs have changed, how we're shifting, how is the other person ever really gonna know? You just have an expectation that the people in your life should just assume and figure it out and read your mind, right? Or just like clock it. Like no. You cannot rebuild genuine connection that way that feels safe. You got to get clarity within yourself. Thank God you have the Spirit of God living within you, right? And prayerfully you have a friend or a mentor, a coach or a counselor or someone who can help you if you feel stuck or you don't know how to get clear. But you must get clear, and then you must open your mouth and begin to communicate so that you can rebuild the connection.
That's good.
And it is important to just check in regularly. After you have gotten clarity and you've communicated, keep talking. The conversation isn't just a one and done.
No.
I think the wonderful thing you said today about communication, well, conversation, you said that's the circulation in the relationship. It's like blood, it circulates and it feeds and fuels the body. Conversation does the same thing for relationships to help a relationship be healthy. So it's not a one and done conversation. It's something that you should talk about regularly, that you should check in, with one another about.
Yeah, I just want to add really quickly. I think I heard somewhere someone said, like, communication is the life of the relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the lifeblood. It's the lifeblood, right? Even if your communication is a little spicy sometimes, come on, it's better than not talking at all. Maybe you need to learn how to talk.
I like Rosa spicy.
See, I'm spicy. Like you got some sense, right? But you do need to be talking, right? And I think just the big thing is, in order to move forward together when things shift, you have to be clear. You've got to communicate. And the bottom line is that it's normal.
Yeah.
If I'm planning on being in a relationship from here until the time that I meet Jesus, I need to shift my expectation to anticipating that this relationship is going to need to be updated. Healthy relationships require regular updates. Normalize it. Get it in your spirit.
Facts.
Make room for it. If you want your relationships to be healthy, you need to have a mindset where you understand and you become okay with, right? Or you just learn how to work through even your discomfort around things changing and needing to be updated.
Yep.
It's necessary.
And I just want to add, like, if you don't, some of y'all don't abandon this idea of this is just the way that I am and I'm not changing for nobody.
Come on.
Then you're going to cause people to abandon you.
My God, you can open the door for that. Yeah, for people just exiting the relationship. I don't believe that people can be abandoned. That's a whole nother conversation.
Well,
but they may choose to decrease intimacy or end the relationship, right?
They're not going to tolerate a person that wants a healthy relationship isn't going to. Hopefully, they won't tolerate being in one where a person refuses change.
Yeah, absolutely. If they're a healthy person and you refuse that, they may say, "Whoop, I may need to take a step back." Right? Decreasing intimacy or just ending the relationship, thanking God for what was and going on about their business. Right? Yeah, absolutely. So what we want to really encourage you to do based on this conversation that we've been having today is just to identify one unspoken expectation that you have in a relationship, any of your relationships, and then maybe, initiate a gentle and honest conversation. First with yourself, right? And then with the other person. And, it's important to know that may feel uncomfortable. It may feel uncomfortable for you to think about just where you are. Yeah. It may feel uncomfortable about just to ponder it on yourself and then talk to someone else. But that's okay. Just because it causes you discomfort, it doesn't mean that you don't need to do these things. It's just an indicator that these are areas where you can grow, and that's okay. God wants you to grow. He's designed you to be able to grow and to develop and to change. And so you can do this, and you don't have to do it on your own. And so, as normal, as usual, we've created a reflection guide for you. So you're going to be able to explore some different questions, some of the ones that we've talked about today, and some additional ones as well, just to explore assumptions that may be creating tensions in your relationships, conversations that you are avoiding that could bring clarity. And then maybe thinking about what compassion may sound like in a conversation, and maybe practice using compassionate language or a compassionate tone before you enter a conversation, if that's not something that always goes well for you, or if you've never even been intentional about it before. It's never too late to start.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. This has been really good.
Yeah, I think so.
I like this conversation. So you guys, when it comes to relationships, they're not going to stay strong by you all in the relationship being the same, right? It requires change, and a relationship only stays healthy and strong when we're able to be real, to be honest, our authentic selves, be flexible with humility, and then having this willingness to grow, right? So there has to be renegotiation. That has to be on the table. And we got to understand that when you renegotiate, that doesn't mean that there has been failure in the relationship. It's a sign that you're still invested in this process of becoming.
That's awesome.
All right. So if this episode has encouraged you, and you've received something that's inspiring you, challenging you, pushing you, we encourage you to support us here at the Healing Project. Your generosity helps us continue creating spaces where faith, emotional health, and relational growth meet. You can give or become a donor, or a monthly donor at www.thehealingpros.com/donate. Thank you for growing with us and being here with us, and for doing the courageous work of loving people as they become.
Awesome. So good to be with you. We will be right back here next week. I can't believe it. We're nearing the end of season 1. That's nuts. But
that's crazy.
Yeah, we've got a couple more episodes before we wrap up this season. But we thank you all so much for being listeners. Make sure that if you're a YouTube person, that you are following us on YouTube at The Healing Pros. Or wherever it is that you listen to this podcast. And if it blessed you, share it with someone else, because that's how we help to get the word out and do everything that we can to help people improve their emotional, mental, and spiritual health within the body of Christ. We thank you all so much. And until next time, remember, you can love others well without losing yourself. See you soon. This podcast will help you better understand God's purpose for your life and your relationships.
Through deep conversations, storytelling, and real-world solutions will inspire you to live, love, and lead from a place of healing.
Visit www.thehealingpros.com and follow us on all social media platforms at The Healing Pros. While we hope you enjoy this podcast, all information shared is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for a relationship with a professional counselor, coach, or clergy member.